Hello, this is Dean Radin, and I'm on Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hello, this is Dr. Raymond Moody, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, Cultural Creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
This is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hey, this is Robbie Holz coming to you on Your Superior Self.
Angels in waiting, how to reach out to your guardian angels and spirit guides. Robbie, thank you so much for joining. I can't wait to talk to you about how can I reach out to my spirit guides. Thank you for joining.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thank you. It's really my pleasure. And it is as simple as asking in your mind. That's how simple it is to ask for help and reach out to your guardian angels and spirit guides.
You know, what's funny is I had a conversation earlier today with someone, and I can't believe I asked this question, but I was like, do the angels understand English? Because every time I ask them for something, it always comes in metaphors. It's like, I see a number, or I see something, or I'll pick out, it's symbolism, right? Like it's never like a slap in the back of the head saying you need to do this. So like I literally asked them, can I speak to them in English? Because I don't know if the message is getting distorted. Do I have to send messages out, symbolisms out to them? But I take it that they can definitely understand English.
They definitely understand the language that you're speaking. They're telepathic. They're telepathic to your thoughts. So it doesn't even need to be conveyed necessarily in a language, but they will respond to you according to the way you respond and what you pay attention to. So if you're more of a music guy, they might just pop lyrics in songs into your head, and the lyrics will make sense to you. Or they're really good at manipulating electronics and that sort of thing. So they might pop songs onto Pandora or Spotify or whatever you're listening to. But if you're a visual guy, like you were just mentioning, they will use, or symbols, then they will use that, because that's what tends to get your attention. That's what you kind of perk up at and pay attention to. So then they'll use that. But once you start going down that path and you realize that it's like when you wanted to get a certain car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere, right? It's the same thing here. You start noticing there's signs, and all the time. We just miss most of them.
Yeah, I don't miss mine, but like I said, I didn't know if it was like the law of attraction, or if it was like, what I was talking about before we started recording, whether that's me picking up patterns via the circuitry in my brain. If it's just something, oh, well, there's that symbol again. Am I doing that? Because it does happen when you start, you want a Jeep, and all of a sudden you start seeing more Jeeps, or, you notice a color. Now you start seeing more color. So it's like, you want to, it's like you question it. You're like, is that a sign? Like it keeps reoccurring. But I find if it keeps reoccurring, then something is pushing you, whether it's the universe or angels or whatever consciousness is pushing you to take notice and to like look into it a little bit more.
Yeah. And you're, I don't know if it's your mind, I think it is, tends to be more tuned into symbolism. That's the way your mind operates, so that's why that works for you. I think, I'm like most people, that I was pretty skeptical of all this. I was raised in the Bible Belt of the United States, in, the Midwest, and a very strict religious upbringing. But at some point, things started to change for me, and I started becoming more aware that these things that were happening, that were showing up in my life, could not be explained away. It was like such incredible synchronicities over and over again. And I remember actually in the very beginning of this, starting to write things down, because my mind might be able to negate most 98% of it, but there was no way it could negate that 2%. And I started writing these things down. And the list kept growing and growing and growing till I realized, oh my gosh, it's real. It's happening.
I love that. Writing it, I should write that down and then see what the percentages are. Because it can't, like, I see it all the time. It can't be like, all right, well, there's a 98% chance you're going to see this 5 times a day. It's just, it would blow your mind how many times I see certain things. But moving on with your story, you grew up in the Bible Belt, but like what was it that changed it for you? I know you had your husband. He was a major influence in your life. things changed dramatically after his story, right, with you. Can you fill in my guys and my girls, the audience here, about your story and how that developed for you?
Sure. Well, my husband was a scientist. He was a physicist. He was actually an award-winning, highly respected physicist. So he was pretty much scientific, black and white, didn't exist if you couldn't prove it, right? But he had developed MS, and he was actually dying from the MS. He went into the outback because he heard that the Aboriginals, the remote Aboriginals in the outback, had remarkable healing abilities. And he went into the outback and stayed with them for a short period of time, but they dramatically changed him, and to the point where he was a quadriplegic when he went into the outback. He was literally unloaded his cargo with his wheelchair from the plane, went into the outback with them, came out with feeling in his body that he hadn't had in 7 years. Was able to be walk, kind of support himself on that airplane ride back on the seats, actually move. But the biggest transformation, Trey, was the emotional transformation. And he started to realize that what the Aboriginals showed him out in the outback is that there are angels and guides who are with us. We just may not be able to see them because they're operating at a higher frequency. It's like an airplane propeller, right? It moves so quickly when it's turned on, you can't see it. It's the same thing here. They're operating at such a high vibration and frequency, we can't see them, but it needs to slow down. And he was able to start seeing them, communicate to them, and started doing what the Aboriginal people in the outback do, where he was communicating to them hours at a time every day. So I met him in 2001, and he was communicating. He'd gone into the outback in 94. When I met him in 2001, he was very engaged and came back from the outback and decided to they had asked him to take their healing principles out into the world because we didn't really understand how healing worked. So he came back and got a doctorate degree in immunology and started practicing what the Aboriginal people had taught him, psychoneuroimmunology, and started really working with the other side of the veil. And that woke me up to what's going on, because it was constantly validated all the time with the people he was communicating with. It was fascinating. So he kind of opened my world up to that. And then when he passed in 2007, and we knew he was going to pass before he did. And when he passed in 2007, he kept showing up every morning at 8 o'clock. And that woke me up to starting to communicate to the other side of the veil. And, it was really pretty primitive. I put his wedding ring on a chain and used it as a pendulum, as muscle testing. It was really very, very basic. And then he just kind of grew from there. Again, those validations where the mind really does not want to trust this stuff, but I couldn't negate these things over and over and over, to the point where now I can just communicate in a number of ways. But I did the same thing you did, where there was an awful lot of symbolism. There were an awful lot of numbers in the beginning initially.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did you trust that, right? I mean, so you say they communicate telepathically. I hear a voice. I think it's my voice in my head. I'm receiving messages. I'm hearing, keep going, keep going, keep going. How do I know that I'm not just making that up? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm glad you asked that, because that's, I think, a common question that people ask all the time is, how can I tell whether it's guidance from my mind or my angels and guides? And we're only working with benevolent beings here who love us more than we can possibly comprehend. But the mind tends to be fear-based, and it'll operate on a you need to, you should, you have to basis. Whereas the guides and angels are operating out of tremendous love. And they don't get impatient with us. They don't judge us. They have tremendous love and gentleness and guidance available to us, but it's completely free will. So they'll guide you, and it just feels right. You just have that knowing. So they guide you with your intuition, that sixth sense, that gut instinct. So I call it the 3-second gut check. In 3 seconds if something is a yes or a no, or it's the right thing to do or not the right thing to do. If you go beyond that 3 seconds, then that's the mind possibly engaged. But it's a very quick, instantaneous. I can tell my guides are answering me because they will answer my question before I even finish asking it in my mind. They know what I'm going to ask. So you just start developing this connection where you recognize very quickly that it's them versus the mind. The mind it's very fear-based. So it's either fear-based or it's love-based. That's a very basic question right there. The basic answer.
Sure. So you developed these talents, these gifts after your husband came back from Australia, right? And he showed you the principles of how to connect. I think there's like 5 principles. Is that just for the 5 principles? Is that just for healing, or is that 5 principles that allow you to expand your consciousness to be able to connect to the universe or higher levels of, consciousness?
Well, the 5 steps were what the Aboriginal people gave us. They're the oldest continuous culture on the planet, and they have passed on their healing knowledge word of mouth for, how many generations is that, right? 60,000 years plus. And so they gave us these 5 steps and asked us to take it out into the world because we didn't really understand how healing worked. And that's what we put out into the world was Secrets of Aboriginal Healing. That's the 5 steps. That's for healing. And then I think communicating to the other side and asking for assistance and help and recognizing their guidance is available to everybody. We're designed to be able to communicate. And the guardian angels are the easiest to communicate with. The guardian angels every single person has a guardian angel, whether you are even aware of them or believe in them. Every single person from your first breath to your last breath. And they are like the gatekeepers or like the first responders. You don't need to go beyond your guardian angel. You can if you want to, but they're the easiest. They're designed to be the easiest to build a relationship and communicate to. So every person has the ability to communicate, but that intuition that you use to communicate is like a muscle. And the more you develop that intuition, the stronger it gets. So like me, I wasn't using it for a long, long time. And then I started developing it. And that's when my abilities just started expanding and expanding. But I think what's important, Trey, is most people recognize every single person is clairsentient, where you feel that guidance, like I said, with that gut instinct, that solar plexus. But most people are not wired to see them or hear them. And so I think they are expecting to see them or hear them. And they think if they're not, that they're not doing it right, or they don't deserve it, or they're just not getting it. It's happening. It's usually happening, but not the way you expect. And it will show up when you need it. You may not get an answer right away. You can ask them a question, right? But you may not get an answer until the groundwork is laid. And it may take another day. It may take a few hours. A couple of pieces to the puzzle may need to fit in first, but they will respond.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. No, we're so used to using our external senses, right? Like the eyes, ears, taste, touch. So like you come to this this incarnation, and you're so used to. I mean, no one tells you any of this stuff, right? You grow up into a community, a society, a family, and you get indoctrinated with their thoughts and their beliefs, and you start becoming more curious about the universe and why you're really here. And you start coming across this literature about consciousness. And, it was physics for me. And it was, learning about quantum mechanics and learning about the unified field theory and all of this different types of literature about something that is out there that we can't see, that connects everything to everything. And it's like just so mind boggling. So I wanted to learn more about that. And so like everything has been like a kind of a breadcrumb from the universe, right? To this point. And now we're talking about angels. How did that model develop for you? Like, I mean, I've always, I grew up Methodist, now Catholic, and now I call myself a universalist because I just believe in, a universal connection to everything.
Yeah.
But how did you develop that model for yourself? Did you believe in angels before? Like, did you have like a foundation of, how to connect with your angels? Like, when did you really start building this model of like, I don't want to say hierarchy, but like methods to communicate? Well,
and they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And so when you're ready, the breadcrumbs are there. It's whether you choose to see them and actually pick them up and follow them. But for me, I was raised Catholic, so I was aware of angels, but not to the degree that I am now. I mean, I really didn't feel connected to them, but I was raised Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic now, but didn't really start going down this path, Trey, until I almost died twice. When I delivered my son back in '85, I had a rough delivery, so they gave me a blood transfusion. And back then they weren't testing for hepatitis, and it had hepatitis C in it.
Mm.
So the hepatitis C almost killed me. And then the experimental treatments that the doctors put me on almost killed me. So I almost died twice. And that put me on a different path in my early 30s that, okay, I survived some really small odds. Why am I here? And I started asking in my early 30s what most people don't ask until they're at the end of their life, and that put me on this path of seeking beyond what I had normally even been concerned with before. So I ended up healing myself of the hepatitis C, which the doctor said back then was incurable, the chronic fatigue syndrome, the temporary brain damage, and the fibromyalgia that I developed from all these experimental treatments. I healed myself of all of that. And that put me on the path of being passionate about helping people recognize how to heal themselves, that it does involve not just the physical body, the emotions are involved, and the soul has a voice in it as well. Like the Aboriginal people have said, it's the body, mind, spirit, that they're all equally involved in the healing process and the disease process. So when I healed myself, I just wanted to get this information out there to empower people and wake them up. And that put me on the path of becoming aware of Gary, and then waking up to angels and seeing it over and over and over, so that there was just no way I could deny this. And then watching what happened to my life, how being of assistance from the other side of the veil. The angels have told me that it's a free will planet. You can do what you want. You can ask for their help or not, but it's tremendously powerful when you allow them to help you. They've said it's like operating at 5 amps of power on your own. When you ask for their assistance, it's like you've just shifted up to 5,000 amps in certain situations. So that's available to us, but you've got to ask. And it is as simple as simply asking in your mind telepathically, thank you for helping me with whatever. Vague, specific, big, small, as often as you want, but please ask. So that's really watching them assist me transformed my life so dramatically. And then I started doing a lot of consultations with people around the world and watching what was happening to them. It's like, this is a game changer. This information needs to get out there, and it will change your life so much. I'm not overselling this, I swear. It's just, you can find peace, guidance, help, assistance for anything and everything. But it's very important. This is where people also get into trouble, is they think they're asking for, they might be asking, like they might ask, thank you for helping me win the lottery, right? Or get a big raise or whatever, or big bonus. But if it's not in the soul's intention for that to happen, it won't happen. But they will help you in other ways, so that they will assist you. The guides and angels will assist you in one of two ways here. They will assist you according to the highest good of all, highest and best good of all. And also, very importantly, they will assist you according to your soul's intentions. So if it's not your soul's intention to win that lottery, which it probably isn't, they're not allowed, they don't have the green light to do that, because they're governed by certain laws. But the soul generally wants us to be very happy and healthy and vibrant and not imprisoned by the mind and this pain. We're creating much more pain and struggle than it was ever intended. We were always intended to have this help available to us. Most people don't think to ask, or they just don't even know to do it.
Yeah, we just don't ask. I don't know if we know how to ask. I mean, you said to speak telepathically. I think some people would feel silly, to be honest with you.
Then write it down. Write down, what works for you. I remember in the beginning of this, I was writing things down. This is what I would like help with. And then just letting it go. And then just letting it go. And then you start seeing things happen, and these things start shifting and changing, because not only do they give you the guidance, the awareness, the aha moments, they also, when you ask, they also start giving you the empowerment. They give you they can download energies into you, like clarity. They can give you clarity. They can give you trust. They can give you confidence. They can give you patience. they can help you release things. That's a big one. They can help you open up to things. So this is where it just makes a huge difference. They're helping you in ways beyond what the mind knows how to do. The mind tends to get stuck, and they're able to guide you on how to not just give you the information, but to give you that boost to do it as well. And here's where I know a lot of people feel, well, I don't want to bother. I mean, everybody tends to be fine with asking for parking spaces, but it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much more they can do for us. So, but if you recognize this is a symbiotic relationship, as you allow them to help you because they're serving you out of tremendous love, it enables them to grow because they're being in service out of love. As you allow them to help you, it allows them to grow. So it's this beautiful win-win for everybody.
Yeah, no, I'll trust me, I'll ask. I have no problem asking. I think it's because it's not even like got an ego either. It's just kind of like I have this dream, this goal, right? And some people, I feel like they don't want to ask for help because they don't want to be disappointed. If they feel.
Well, that's because they have expectations of how it should show up. Right. And so, and again, I mentioned before, and this is really important, the guides and angels will respond according to your soul's intentions. So if you're, and I get this all the time, people will ask me, am I supposed to be writing a book? Am I supposed to be making a movie about this? And sometimes it's a yes, and sometimes it's a no. But if it's the soul's intention, like it was for me, when I asked my guides, what's my soul's intention? And they said, it's to write a couple books. I about fell off my chair because I hate to write. Have never had a single class on it because I have no interest in it. But it was my soul's intention to do that. So, but what I am good at is organizing and being tenacious and connecting the dots. So with their help, I was able to do that. So when you ask and allow them to help you, they will guide you according to what your soul intends. And if you go where your soul intends, you're going to love where it takes you. And people ask me, well, how do I know what my soul wants from me? And I'm like, well, what are you like, especially career direction? I'm like, what are you good at? And what's your passion? Combine those. There's a reason you're good at something, and there's a reason that you have that passion. It's very deliberate. So let them guide you on how to create that. But most people tend to be driven by the mind, where the mind has expectations. It has these goals that may not be at all what the soul intends. And that's why you're going to run into trouble and a lot of obstacles. But when you let them guide you, then they can help you accomplish that. And that's why now those 4 books are out in all over the world. There's no way I could have done that. But with their help and guidance, it made it happen.
Well, how do you, and I know people are going to ask this, it's like, how do you know, how do you differentiate between the mind and that heart, that intent, or intention, that soul intention, right? Like, how do you know it's not just an ego goal?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's a good question. It comes back to, again, the mind tends to be fear-based. I have to, I should, I need to. And if you keep getting obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, that should be telling you something, right? But with the guides, when you're following your soul's intention, it feels right. It just feels right. And things tend to flow into place. These synchronicities, this is very easy for them. It's child's play for them to be assisting us. And it's their job to communicate to us. And if they keep giving you the messages, and they'll keep bringing it around, and they might bring it around a number of different ways through different people, but they'll keep bringing the message around. And if you misinterpret it, they'll make sure that you get it, right? So that's their job, to communicate to us. Just let go of expectations. So thank you for helping me release my mind's expectations. Ask them to help you with that. Thank you for helping me release what's in my way. Thank you for helping me move forward. Thank you for helping me find peace, happiness, vibrant health as much as possible.
What's the 5 principles as far as what you guys learned from the Aborigines?
The 5 principles, the 5 steps, you might, I hope I can remember this in order now. It's been a while since we talked about it. The first one is willingness. You need to be able to be willing to make some changes, and we are wired to not like to change. So, for Gary, it had to get pretty bad, right? Quadriplegic, in a wheelchair with MS, close to facing death, before he realized he needed to make some emotional changes, some mental changes. So willingness is first. The next step is awareness. He had to become aware of what was creating the problem. For him, he'd had a really abusive childhood, and he had an alcoholic father who used to beat him. And Gary, with that brilliant mind of his, got really good at numbing himself emotionally, to the point where he numbed himself physically, which was what the multiple sclerosis was. So he had to learn to become aware that it was that those walls he was putting up, those barriers to feeling things, it was also connected to, it was like the dandelion root to the illness of MS. The Aboriginals have said it's like you can pull the top of a dandelion, but if you don't get to the root, that dandelion is going to come right back again. So he had to get to the root, which was his anger at his father, and forgive him. That's all that, and that's what the Aboriginals helped him become aware of. The third step, oh boy, let's see. I know there is, and it's all in the book, Secrets of Aboriginal Healing. It's not that I'm trying to sell a book, it's just that right off the top of my head. I know there's also empowerment in there, where you take back your power. Like with me, when I had a blood transfusion that had hepatitis C, the doctor said, this is the way it's going to be the rest of your life. There is no cure, you'll always have this. But I was determined to survive, because I had a little boy that was way too young to remember me, and I was determined to survive and find a way to heal it. And I did. So I took my power back. So those are the three that come off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I can't remember all of them.
Is gratitude one, I think?
Well, gratitude is huge. Gratitude is fabulous for so many things. So here's the thing, Trey, when you have certain emotions, and science has actually proven this, when you have, like, let's just say fear-based emotions, okay, that become toxic, they create a different cell. It has a different chemical response in the body. Dr. Emoto's water photography has shown us that those types of cells created in those kinds of emotions are they're just not formed correctly. The hardest emotions on the body are self-hatred, shame, guilt. You would think anger would be one of them, but if you think about it, when we get angry, we lash out. And that energy typically goes out through the arms and legs. That's why you want to kick or hit. So it's that stuff that you're marinating in on a regular basis, where you're constantly creating those kinds of cells, that creates a problem. So the flip side is to create a vibrant body: forgiveness, self-love, and gratitude, like you just said. Those are really creating vibrant cells. The photography has shown us they look like these beautiful symmetrical snowflakes. It has a different, it's like this swampy environment with a negative fear-based stuff versus this beautiful, vibrant, teeming river flowing. That's the difference.
Wow. Yeah. Ancient wisdom coming from some remote tribes in Australia. Like, that is just, I was listening to a previous interview, and you're talking about how they have no concept of time. Like, I would love to be in their tribe. Like, I would love to spend some time with these guys. Like,
yeah,
like, just not have a schedule, just kind of like hang out,
Yeah.
Whenever it feels right, we'll take care of it.
Well, and that's exactly what happened. When I went into the outback, I was invited to participate in ceremonies with the women, and it was amazing. We created these, again, I'm just this typical Midwestern person, right? Raised in a very conservative background, but I went into the outback having no clue what was going to happen. And we're creating these thunderstorms that they hadn't seen in like a decade. And they don't call that it's time to do this when it's 5 o'clock or whatever. They do it when it's right, when everything in nature is connected and aligned and it's right. And so that was a real eye-opening experience to me. One of the things that Gary talks about is when he went into the outback, he was surprised to see, we would call it meditating, they would call it connecting in dream time, where they go to these other dimensions or planes that will tell you are much more real than what we feel is here in this particular world, this physical world that we have. And they start doing that at about the age of 3 or 4, where they're disconnecting from the mind, and they're connecting to that inner wisdom, that higher consciousness that's available to all of us. And so he's noticed that they're in that state half the time, and they start at a very young age. And he said, I have to apologize. I thought they were just stupid or just, spacing out. And then he realized, no, they are connecting in a much, much deeper way than what we do, because it's sort of imprisoned by the mind and its distortions and its, the mind will lie to you, right? And so we tend to get caught up in that stuff. And whereas the Aboriginals are going far beyond the limitations of the mind, and this is what they were teaching Gary, and said, we want you to take this information out, because especially Western medicine, we don't recognize that the mind, the emotions, and the body are definitely connected. And so this is what psychoneuroimmunology is how to affect the immune system with the mind. And so we start to recognize there is a relationship between the emotions. Feel them, don't suppress them, let them come up, but don't be marinating in negative emotions longer than you need to. So there's just so much wisdom from these very enlightened, and I'm talking about the remote Aboriginals, the one who have safeguarded themselves from civilization, not the ones that are caught up in civilization in Australia, but the ones who are deliberately safeguarded from any quote unquote civilization.
Did they ever talk about how to manifest things for yourself, or as far as like putting you on your path?
Yes, they talk about that too. It's about how, again, and this is where this is just part of the culture that we live in. We tend to focus and obsess about what we don't want, right? I mean, you can call it worry, but worry is really, in a lot of ways, it's a waste of time, and it's really not healthy for us. There's a difference between, thinking and planning and worry. And there's also about manifesting and creating what you want. This is what the Olympic athletes do. They see themselves crossing the line. They see themselves up on the podium. But here, and there's a big, there was a big movement about that. There were a lot of books about it. But what people are missing, and that's great, to focus on what you want and create that. But what's important, the piece that we're missing about that is, what's the soul's intention in that? Right? Does your soul want you to win that race at that particular moment in time? So this is where, when you allow the help from the other side of the veil, they can help you engage in ways of creating this, but doing it in combination with the soul, so that you may want a relationship with somebody else, or you may want that particular job, but it might be better to be with somebody different, right? And have a different career or a different job, and they will help you create that, find that, and make it happen. Because if it's the mind forcing it, it's not going to end up the way you want it to.
Sure. Like you said, things start popping up where you're not gonna get that thing, right? Like things are going to deter you. Obstacles are going to pop up. You're just going to keep beating your head into the wall, because you're not going to be able to achieve it if it's just not the right time, not the right direction for yourself.
Right.
So what are your clients like? How do you help your clients like connect with that soul intention?
That's a great question. Because these books are in over 44 countries, I get people from all over the world wanting to do a consultation with me. And I just do 1 hour. That's it. It's enough to give them. So my spirit team will connect to their team, so to speak, and find out, where are they? What's their soul really intend for this lifetime? Are they here to learn deeper levels of self-love? Are they here to master greater levels of forgiveness of others or self? Are they here to learn how to have more acceptance? And what we tend to get triggered by, not tend to, but what we get triggered by is telling you where your homework is, right? What you've signed up for. And so it's that whatever you resist will persist until you finally get it, until you don't need that anymore, because it's the mind that's getting stuck. So the guides will tell me what this person's challenge is, what they're here to learn and what they're here to master, and also how to connect to their own team. Some people have loved ones who have passed over who are helping. And we talk about this in Angels in Waiting. Loved ones are not your guardian angels, and they're not your spirit guides, but they can assist you. Spirit guides have had many, many, many lives where they are incredibly highly enlightened, very high consciousness to them. Angels are a different category. But you can have loved ones. You may even have ancestors that you're not even aware of, like a great great grandmother who kind of helps you now and then and watches over you and protects you and is trying to guide you through that intuition. You may have never even met that ancestor before, but they are in your life and they're all operating out of tremendous love. And again, we're only working with beautiful, benevolent beings who love us beyond our wildest imagination.
Mm. Well, I'm interested. I want to, maybe I'll be the guinea pig. Can we see what my soul intention is? Can you do that for me, for my listeners?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see if they want to talk about it on the air.
I hope so. That'd be embarrassing.
All right. Yeah. No, this one's not. Okay, let me just see if they'll talk to me about this. Hang on. They've already told me one thing. You are learning greater levels of acceptance with regards to other people. Okay, so this is why you will have people in your life who make choices that you may not agree with and that it's hard to accept, because you're here to learn acceptance. It's like we're all here on this free will planet, this earth school, this learning lab, and everybody's at different, we're all equal as souls. We're all equal as souls, but we're all at different levels of growth and evolution. So you might be more evolved in some levels. You might already know how to fly. And we have other people who are at the stages where they don't even have an interest in crawling yet. And so it's about not judging those who are not ready to crawl or those who keep falling down over and over and over, like a toddler learning how to walk. So it's about having acceptance that everybody's learning at the way they need to, in the way they need to, at the pace they need to, and that there's tremendous love behind all of this. So we don't judge others because that's where they're at. And so if I come at it with, again, the mind with its negativity, judging, then that's my pop quiz. That's my class curriculum.
That is something very tough for me. Acceptance of other people's, I wouldn't say like I am very accepting of people. It's just sometimes I don't like being told what to do.
So this is, Trey, where you ask and allow help from the other side, right? So you're challenged by that, but it's your soul's intention for you to master that. Right? So they have the green light to help you master that. So even though your mind doesn't know how to do it, there is a higher loving consciousness available to help you do that. So you can just hand it over. Thank you for helping me have high levels of acceptance. Thank you for helping me be at peace no matter what others are choosing to do, because they will keep coming to you. Let me give you an example. When I lost a dear family member to smoking, and I got really upset that there were certain people in my life that were still smoking. And I got really upset and angry with the tobacco companies who were putting out this addictive, unhealthy product, right? So I was finding myself surrounded by smokers, couldn't seem to get away from smokers. And when I finally realized, okay, that's their choice. They are learning about nurturing the body or not. What happens when you don't honor, love, and respect it? And what happens when you do? And that's just part of their class curriculum, is the smoking. And so don't judge them. Come at it from love, compassion, acceptance. You don't have to like it, but at least accept it. When I started just accepting it, I didn't like it, but I accepted it. Okay, that's how they're learning. The smokers went away. I didn't need that in my life anymore because I had passed that pop quiz, so to speak. I didn't need that classroom anymore. So I've signed up for enough classes, in this lifetime. I don't need to be stepping into somebody else's classroom too and adding more to my class curriculum. So when you get triggered, that's how you know where you're still getting stuck. Ask them to ask the team to help you move beyond that.
How do I develop, ask them, how do I develop, me specifically, a more meaningful relationship with them?
That's a great question. And the first thing I would do is hand that over. Thank you for helping me develop a closer connection to you. Thank you for helping me pick up on, and you'll notice that I'm saying thank you, not oh, please, because they respond. Thank you for helping me pick up on your messages more clearly. And thank you for helping me have greater clarity on what you're conveying to me. And so they will help you develop that. And over days, weeks, months, and years, you'll notice that you're changing. So, but it is like any other relationship. You cannot nurture a relationship if you never show up. You cannot expect to communicate to them once every 4 months and then forget about it. It's that being aware that there is someone always by your side 24/7 from your first breath to your last breath. That guardian angel never leaves your side, always there, lovingly, waiting to be of assistance. And so you start becoming aware and you just start talking to them. I'm constantly aware. Some people need to have like a statue or a picture to remind them, that they're there, to remind them to ask. A Post-it note, don't complicate it, right? But they're there. But here's the thing. Guardian angels, like I said, are the easiest to communicate to. They're the easiest to develop a relationship with. Guardian angels have a little different role. They're called guardian angels because they are allowed to intervene in this free will planet. They're allowed to intervene and step in if they're allowed to step in and intervene so that we don't experience something our soul doesn't intend us to experience, are harmed or killed if it's not our soul's intention. And I think just about everybody listening will tell you that there have been times when they were almost killed, but something happened and intervened, right? And they may not have known what that was. That happened to me a couple times before I even knew about angels. So guardian angels are there to make sure you're not harmed, killed, or experience something your soul doesn't intend. That's why they're called guardians. Beyond that, you've got to ask. Just simply ask, because it's a free will planet. And they recognize, Trey, that we learn through pain. That's one of our greatest teachers. We learn through struggle. That's part of the process, but we're making it harder than it needs to be. The example that I like to give, it's like a child wanting to learn how to tie their laces, and they might make a really tangled mess of those laces. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the learning process. But when that child asks the parent for help, then that wise, loving parent steps in and assists in the way that's perfect for that child. And that's the same thing here. Waiting to be assisted, to be of assistance, but needing to be asked first.
I love that. Do you reach out to archangels as well? Do you have connections with them?
Yes. And I have 2 archangels on my healing team. Archangel Michael is fabulous at protection. They will step in if the guardian angel needs more assistance. It's all one in the big picture, right? It's all one, but we categorize things. They will bring in more assistance. But if I'm going, to an airport or on the highway or something happens, I might ask Archangel Michael for protection, extra protection. There is Archangel Raphael is known as the healing archangel. So so it's no surprise. Archangel Raphael is part of my healing team. And it's not that I knew this initially. I'll tell you, I went into a store one time and there was this beautiful candle and I saw it and I just burst into tears. I didn't even know what it was. I just burst into tears when I saw this beautiful candle, and I picked it up and held it and saw it's a picture of Archangel Raphael. And that's when I realized, Archangel Raphael is part of my healing team. I didn't even know it. So it's like they'll get your attention when it's time, when you need to know that. So that's how I learned Archangel Raphael's part of my team. I didn't need to know that before, but it was, so that candle is right here on my desk.
That's awesome.
I had to buy it.
What about ascended masters? Like I'm learning a little bit more about them and what their purpose is here to help us, right? Like, do you have any of those on your healing team?
I do. My healing team is headed up by an ascended master. So let's just say, because people like to categorize things, that's the way our minds work. If you say that we're operating in a 3rd dimensional plane frequency vibration, okay, it's lower. That's where you can have in 3rd dimension tendencies of what's happening right now on the planet, right? The things that we do to each other are absurd, having these depression, anger, stress, that's 3rd dimensional tendencies. If you move up in frequency and vibration to 4th, if you move up into 5th, that's where the angels and spirit guides are usually at, is that higher 5th dimensional vibration. That's why it's very easy for them to manipulate and operate in 3rd dimension, and why they have to honor our free will. If you go higher to a 6th dimensional frequency of vibration, that's where the ascended masters are. And they have achieved such a high level of consciousness and love and light. They're operating in a much, much higher frequency.
Which ascended master do you have helping you out?
Mine is Divine Mother Mary.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. So this is why I believe that I incarnated into this very Catholic family and went through 12 years of Catholic school, right? The blazer, the knee socks, the whole deal, because I needed to learn about archangel. I needed to learn about Divine Mother Mary, because that's a big part of the Catholic religion. So I did not realize that. It took a long time for me to recognize her tremendous love. It'll just make you weep. There's so much love. But she is like the queen of the angels in some regards. So she has a tremendous amount of help from the other side. And she is here very much to help people who are here to be of service. That's her big thing, is to be of service, not enabling or rescuing, but to be of service in the way that's appropriate. And so this is why I have tremendous help from her.
So how did you like, how did you know that she was a part of that team? Did you just ask and that was a vision was given to you? Like a name was said? Like, how did that come?
Oh man, Trey, I don't even remember. It's been so long. But it's one of those things that it's not like it just happens overnight, right? And it was happening for a long, long time before I even realized it. And I don't know that I even knew it was her. But when you meet, sometimes the energy is so strong coming off these loving beings, and the love that they have is so strong. When my husband passed, he passed in 2007, and I decided I was going to go and stay on the ocean. I live on the West Coast, and I decided I'm going to go stay in a yurt, go camp out, and then go stay in a yurt on the ocean right after he passed. I just wanted to just get away from everything and clear my head and just, when I went to this particular outing, and I was by myself, and I thought, now Gary's passed. I thought, I'm taking Gary, I'm taking you with me. Right. And so I remember sitting on the beach, looking out at the beach. People were there on the beach. And when the sun started to go down, everybody, it's going to make me cry again. It was such a strong feeling. All the people were coming back to their cars, and they were going down below. I was up on a hillside, and I'm watching all these people leaving the beach. And I just felt this huge love for them. Just this. And I somehow knew that was just a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the love that is given to us from the other side, but we just have no clue. And it just made me weep. So I took a picture so that I would never forget that moment. And it's here in my office to remind me. And I just knew, again, it comes back to that intuition, that knowing, that inner knowing. I just knew that's just a tiny, tiny sliver of the love.
To know, to feel that, to interact with that, your team of healers, like, and to be so confident in that, right? And to know that they're there to help you, like, that is just so unbelievable and just so powerful. I just think it's amazing. I mean, really, the whole idea that we all have our own team, right? Like, essentially we have a guardian angel, but do we have our own set of healers or angels like you do?
It depends on what you're here to do, and it depends on what you're doing. Like, for instance, if you have a child who has autism or special needs, you will have different, usually spirit guides, who will come and assist you. Now, they're not there 24/7 like your guardian angel, but it's not uncommon to have spirit guides who have been in that position where they've either had autism. I'm just using that as an example, or they've been parents of an autistic child, and they are highly evolved, and they're here to assist and help. So the spirit guides come and go depending. My healing team is not always around me. They're with me when I do my consultations and I do my healing with people, but they're not always around me. But my guides are there, available to me. But my angels are there. My guardian angels always there.
Do you ever
and
see
I know
them?
that. I have seen them, but it's not like that's not the main way that I communicate to them. I have seen them. And it is interesting how people will see that they can take on a form of a human briefly. I've had people tell me where they have had an angel appear as a firefighter who woke them up in the middle of the night to get out of a burning building. And then they go back to thank that firefighter. There is no such firefighter like that, right? It was an angel. Angels don't need to go to this school, so to speak. They don't need to incarnate as humans, whereas spirit guides have done that, and they know what it's like to be a human. Angels can take on a form briefly for us, but they don't need to. So they come to me in different ways. Sometimes I'll hear words. Sometimes it'll just be this download of telepathic information. And here's the thing, and the Aboriginals will tell you this. They'll tell you telepathy is what we used to do. That's the ancient language where nobody spoke out loud. They think, and it is very primitive and chaotic to be speaking out loud. It kind of reminds me of this typing everything out, right? It takes so long to type it out. And with telepathy, you get this download of information without having to go through every single word, every single thought, right? So that's what it's like. And the Aboriginals have always stayed, the ones that I'm talking about, the remote ones, have always stayed telepathic. And they've never lost their connection to the earth. They've never lost their connection to other animals, to the plants, to the water. They've always maintained that. Whereas when we started speaking out loud, we lost that connection. It separated us.
Wow. Robbie, this has been awesome. I love talking to you.
I love your questions.
How can people find you? How can they connect? How can they buy your book?
I put a lot of free information out there, Trey. My passion is to get this information out to assist people. And so if they go to my website, holzwellness.com, 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 there's a lot of free information about angels, about healing, about the Aboriginals. The books are up there. There's an online healing course. They can connect to me if they want to send me an email. But I've tried to, again, my passion, getting this information out, because I think if people knew, Trey, how they always have someone by their side who loves them beyond our wildest imagination, it would make a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. And I know that this is going to help a lot of people help find their team of angels and help them get in touch, understand more how they can connect with them, and continue in this reality that a lot of us are suffering in, and to take some of that suffering away. So thank you for your work, Robbie. This has been fantastic.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Trey.